My next guest, you all know, Joan Rivers. She's appearing at the Plaza 4 here in Century City. She'll be there for the rest of the week. And then she goes to Las Vegas at the end of the month where you can see her at the Sands.
Johnny Carson ruled late-night television for 3 decades, yet his farewell was strikingly quiet, leaving the public with no place to say goodbye. In the silence that followed, however, a lingering memory surfaced, one tied to a relationship forged under the bright lights of television, but later fractured by betrayal. The man who could command millions of viewers each night often felt uneasy in close relationships, and the final chapter of his life reveals why some shadows of the past never truly fade. The silence after the king's death. Johnny Carson's passing on January 23, 2005, marked the end of an era in American television, but his farewell was unlike that of any other superstar. There was no funeral procession, no public memorial service, and no gathering of Hollywood's elite to pay respects. Instead, Carson's family chose strict privacy, honoring the late-night icon's lifelong desire to remain out of the spotlight when it truly mattered. This decision shocked many who expected the world to come together and celebrate the man who had entertained millions for decades. It wasn't just the absence of a grand ceremony that captured attention. It was also the quiet absence of certain familiar faces. Those who had known Carson well in the public eye seemed to vanish behind a curtain of silence. His ashes were given to his wife, Alexis Maz, and only a handful of people witnessed the final moments, leaving the world to grieve quietly from afar. The star, whose final Tonight Show attracted close to 50 million viewers, left this life with a strangely muted exit. The lasting silence wasn't simply about privacy. It created a vacuum that begged one haunting question. Who truly mattered to Johnny Carson in his final days? In this rare stillness, a name began to echo louder than most, not because that person walked into a room, but because their absence spoke volumes. This ghost of the past, overshadowing the final chapter of Carson's life, became the unexpected guest at his funeral that everyone thought there would be. Carson had long been known as a paradox, comfortable, dazzling millions on camera, but awkward and reserved off-stage. His longtime sidekick, Ed McMahon, once said Carson was comfortable in front of 20 million people and completely uncomfortable in front of 20. This dichotomy between public presence and private retreat shaped his life and death, where control and distance were constants. Carson demanded privacy with the same intensity he commanded the stage, and in death he maintained that distance. The man who had taught America to laugh before bed lived with layers of secrecy and emotional distance. Among thousands of acquaintances and professional peers, there was one relationship that carried an unresolved tension so deep it threatened to overshadow his legacy. The world mourned the king of late night, but backstage, a drama of friendship, loyalty, and bitter betrayal quietly simmered, waiting to surface. Despite the flood of tributes from presidents and entertainers, there was something missing, an unsettled story left untold. This absence lingered like a silent note in a song, hinting at pain beneath charisma and warmth. In time, it would become clear that the final act in Carson's life was not about the millions who watched him, but about the complicated bond that shaped his soul, a bond that fractured beyond repair. This unresolved story is not found in the public eulogies or the Hollywood honors, but in the private heartache between two broken people. The unexpected guest at the end was not a visitor, but a memory, the difficult legacy of a friendship torn apart. Only by understanding this silent figure can we fully grasp the mystery of Johnny Carson's quiet goodbye. What follows is a look back not only at Carson's death, but at the relationship that defined his personal world behind the stage lights. A story of mentorship, admiration, estrangement, and ultimate estrangement that shaped both of their careers in ways few could have predicted. The truth waits patiently beneath the surface, ready to be told. This tale begins long before that quiet January day, back to a moment when a struggling comedian first stepped onto the stage that Carson ruled. Joan Rivers' rise and breakthrough. Before Joan Rivers became a household name, her career teetered on the edge of collapse. In the early 1960s, she was a young comedian fighting to be heard in New York's Greenwich Village clubs, where success was elusive and the future uncertain. She often passed the hat to the audience, sometimes without much return, even sleeping in her car at times to make ends meet. By 1965, some in the industry had begun to write her off, telling her chances of stardom were slim. Rivers continued to pursue her career after facing multiple challenges, which included her suspension from the first iteration of The Tonight Show. She went to Johnny Carson's Tonight Show auditions 7 times, but he rejected her on every occasion. Her confidence decreased with each setback, but she continued to fight on because she believed that one special night would bring her success. The moment she had been waiting for finally came on February 17, 1965, which she believed would be her final opportunity. The evening brought her the mission of goodwill, which her manager obtained through his work with Bill Cosby. Rivers opened the show expecting to achieve 2 goals, which included making peace with both the audience and the industry. Everything matched perfectly when the audience responded, while the material performed exceptionally, and she created a powerful connection with the audience. The performance created an exceptional atmosphere that filled the space with magical energy. The couch, which Johnny Carson made famous, became the starting point for an extraordinary event when she sat down beside him. Carson delivered a live television statement which transformed her entire existence when he said, "You're going to be a star." The remark surprised Rivers because she looked behind her to see who was making the statement. Yet she recognized him as her unexpected supporter at that instant. The brief conversation established a professional relationship that developed into a mentoring connection between the 2 parties. The Tonight Show became Rivers' platform to succeed because Carson provided her with regular show appearances while giving her support, which nobody else offered her. During the following 2 decades, she made close to 100 appearances, which formed a partnership between 2 performers based on their ability to create humorous moments and execute precise timing. The on-air chemistry between him and her developed into a legendary bond, which paired him as the solid main character with her unpredictable comic style that generated laughter. Carson provided Rivers with more than his time as a guest on his show. He endorsed her show launch when he appeared as her first guest in 1969, which established her first daytime talk show. He gave her hosting assignments for his absences, which she began doing from 1983 onward as her fixed guest host position. She stood as the royal successor to her throne across all public domains and throughout the entire industry. The audience observed their relationship through bright lights and laughter, which created a complex understanding of their bond. The 2 people displayed warmth during their on-screen interactions, but their relationship remained active only for their public performances. Rivers described it as a friendship that existed entirely on camera, with little real connection behind the scenes. Carson's personality kept him at a distance, which resulted in his colleagues remaining unable to approach him. Their bond existed through a power structure that defined their connection more than their emotional bond. Rivers received her career from Carson, who ruled as the king, yet their off-screen interactions remained stuck in professional duties without a personal connection. The distinction between these 2 elements would prove essential for understanding the emotional pain and betrayal that followed their relationship throughout subsequent years. The complexity of their bond sets the stage for what came next, a story of shifting loyalties and growing distance that blurred the line between career ambition and personal pain. Behind the camera walls. The millions at home watched Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers because they appeared as perfect late-night hosts who combined his calm delivery with her sharp-edged humor. Their banter created an electrifying atmosphere, which Carson only broke with his laughter because of their exceptional bond. The public believed the 2 shared close ties, but their actual relationship operated in an entirely different manner than what people expected. Carson built his personal life through his practice of establishing security boundaries, which he refused to share with others. Most people could not reach his inner world because he created an image that extended beyond his actual self. The distance between them made friendly conversations impossible, which left Rivers and others to handle a business relationship that did not involve any personal contact. Rivers stated that their friendship showed at times, which her own words confirmed to be true. During breaks and off-stage moments, silence often filled the space between them. Rivers wrote that when the cameras stopped rolling, she and Carson frequently had little to say to one another. The problem arose from Carson's difficulty in handling close relationships, which had nothing to do with personal animosity. The famous man used his extreme distance from others to defend his inner world, which he disclosed only after careful selection. The roles established by their connection defined their relationship, because Carson acted as the good-hearted patron while Rivers emerged as the most promising talent in his entourage. The king held absolute power, while the jester who served him remained loyal, yet never reached his level of authority. The two parties involved in this situation maintained established limits, which they both understood to exist, yet they refrained from challenging these boundaries because they understood that doing so would result in severe penalties. Their accomplishments established a permanent divide between them because of their professional achievements. Rivers' entire career existence depended on Carson because he had created her professional path, which she followed from her beginning period until her name recognition. The obligation she felt toward him created a power imbalance that positioned her in a submissive state. Rivers dedicated herself entirely to Carson, but she started to experience the constraints that defined her existence within his social circle and his professional relationships. The public did not observe this spatial separation between people. Millions of viewers watched their relationship progress through live broadcasts, which showcased their entertaining interactions and their ability to think quickly. The actual situation developed through power dynamics and controlling behavior, while both parties maintained silent limits that they feared crossing. The protective barriers that Carson constructed to safeguard his safety later transformed into the obstacles that destroyed their friendship. The icy current of this situation must be understood before anyone can comprehend the betrayal that followed it. The betrayal formed a deep split that altered the professional paths and personal existence of both actors for all time, while it defined the way Carson spent his final days. When the boundaries between loyalty and ambition blurred, their story became a haunting reminder of what happens when personal limits and professional expectations collide. Cracks in loyalty and power. By the mid-1980s, the once steady ground beneath Joan Rivers' feet began to tremble. For years, she had felt secure as Carson's trusted right hand, the permanent guest host who held the keys to The Tonight Show when Johnny was away. But suddenly, uncertainty crept into the fabric of her career. In 1985, when Carson signed a new 2-year contract with NBC, Rivers was offered only a 1-year deal. It was a subtle but unmistakable message. Her future at the network was now in question. The increasing discomfort among people showed itself through multiple contract length extensions. NBC started to distribute a memo which contained potential successors to succeed Carson after his retirement. Yet Rivers did not appear in the list. The shock of omission cut deep. The network considered her to be a serious contender because she had spent more time at the Tonight Show desk than most others. But she had not achieved that status. The stark reality dawned on Rivers that, despite her loyalty and talent, she was being sidelined. The exclusion affected Rivers on both professional and personal levels. She came to believe that NBC, and by extension Carson, would never truly accept a woman in the top host position. She saw permanent guest hosting as a way to keep her talent under control, while the show prevented her from achieving full career growth. The network accepted her role as a supporting character, yet it refused to make her the lead because of prevailing industry norms that restricted women from advancement at that period. The feeling of being rejected created a core weakness inside her. Rivers started to doubt her standing in society because she realized that dedication and skill might not bring her success. The doors that had opened to her started to shut down, while her bright future, which she had envisioned, turned into a dim reality. A new opportunity appeared during this time when professional uncertainty existed because it held the potential to transform her entire life. Fox approached Rivers with an offer that she found too enticing to decline because it was a new network that wanted to create an impact on the late-night television market. They offered her a late-night talk show called The Late Show, which would compete against The Tonight Show. The salary reached $5 million, which represented multiple times her previous earnings from NBC. For Rivers, the offer felt like both a lifeline and a gamble. Her dedication to Carson and NBC clashed with her need to gain both respect and independence. She experienced a dual conflict through her relationship with the man who had built her career and her sense of rejection from the systems that protected him. Her husband, Edgar Rosenberg, who worked as her manager, instructed her to use Hollywood logic by delaying Carson's notification until they secured the Fox contract. The situation generated genuine fear because Carson held considerable power, which permitted him to terminate the opportunity through a single comment. The protective silence initiated the process that created an unbreakable rift. The news leaked just before the official announcement, and with it came a deep and public rupture in the bond between Rivers and Carson. Their tale evolved from being a story about mentorship to a narrative that included betrayal and misunderstanding, together with the actual dynamics that govern power relationships in the entertainment industry. The moment brought about an immediate breakdown of their delicate trust, which resulted in their former strong partnership becoming a hostile conflict. The upcoming battle would bring major changes to their existence and continue to resonate even after their last performances. The path forward was uncertain, but the next chapter would reveal just how far that betrayal would cut and how ruthless the consequences would become. The Fox show deal and betrayal. The moment Joan Rivers' deal with Fox became public, everything changed. According to Rivers, she was horrified that Carson learned about it from someone else. She made frantic calls to explain herself, trying to reach the man who had once championed her so passionately. When she finally got him on the phone, she told him she was leaving to host her own show. But the silence on the other end was deafening. Carson did not respond. He hung up, not once, but twice. Rivers called back, hoping for a different outcome, but Carson's refusal to engage was absolute. That phone call marked the death knell of their friendship. From then on, they would never speak again. The public lost two of late night's greatest comedic talents united. Behind closed doors, a friendship was permanently severed. The different narrative of Carson's story required him to prove that his version of events was true. He told friends and colleagues that the phone call never happened at all. He claimed he discovered Rivers' new show through a press release, the same way the rest of the world did. An ambush that left him feeling blindsided and betrayed. The man who had mentored Rivers for 2 decades felt this act to be more than professional disrespect because it attacked his personal dignity. Why did Carson react with such extreme intensity? Other comedians had left The Tonight Show to pursue their own projects before, and while there was always some tension, no rift had ever been this deep. Rivers believed there was more at play: gender and possessiveness. She wrote that in Carson's eyes, because she was a woman, she was his property, someone who was not meant to leave. Her departure was not ambition, but treason. Carson's wrath erupted because he felt betrayed. The once supportive mentor became an unrelenting adversary determined to make Rivers pay for defying him. The network permanently banned her from The Tonight Show. Bush Rivers' existence disappeared from the stage that she had helped to illuminate during Carson's entire career and after that. The punishment against Carson continued to escalate beyond its initial consequences. Carson created what industry insiders considered to be a blacklist, according to reports about his actions. Rivers' Fox program required celebrities to appear as guests, but warned them they would lose their Tonight Show access. Agents and stars faced a difficult decision between network support and their commitment to the most successful show in television history. Carson's platform provided better stability for most agents and stars, and this choice forced Rivers to compete for essential high-profile guests who were needed for late-night success. According to reports, one NBC executive warned her that they intended to terminate her career. The threat created an atmosphere that resulted in professional isolation and public humiliation. The Late Show premiered on October 9, 1986, but soon faced serious challenges without star guests or network support. The show experienced a drop in ratings, which created more internal conflicts when Fox ordered Rivers to terminate her husband, Edgar Rosenberg, who worked as the show's producer. The couple faced termination when she refused to proceed with the demands in May 1987. The quiet withdrawal of a former champion underscored an irreversible rupture, one that defined both of their legacies in stark and lasting ways. The fallout from this broken bond would echo far beyond ratings and contracts, carrying consequences no one could have foreseen. Blacklisting and career fallout. Joan Rivers' departure from The Tonight Show did not just sever a personal connection, It ignited a professional war that changed the trajectory of her career. Johnny Carson, once her mentor and champion, reportedly created a blacklist that forbade anyone who appeared on Rivers' Fox show from ever setting foot on The Tonight Show again. For many celebrities and their agents, this was a stark ultimatum. Choose the security and prestige of Carson's dominion, or risk invisibility in the most powerful late-night arena. This forced many A-list guests to steer clear of Rivers' program, leaving her new show dangerously starved for the big names essential to its survival. The Late Show struggled to attract viewers without the draw of high-profile guests, placing immense pressure on Rivers and the creative team behind the scenes. The very network that aimed to launch her flagship show offered little support, compounding the uphill battle she now faced. Behind the curtain, the atmosphere grew tense. The show's producer, Edgar Rosenberg, Rivers' husband, frequently clashed with Fox executives over the direction and management of the program. The internal disputes added another layer of strain, distracting from efforts to stabilize the show's ratings and reputation. These conflicts eroded the foundation of what might have been a new beginning, turning it into a slow unraveling. In May of 1987, the network demanded that Rivers fire Rosenberg or face cancellation. Standing firm, Rivers chose loyalty over compliance, refusing to sacrifice her husband's role. The result was swift and brutal. Fox fired both Rivers and Rosenberg. Professionally, this was a crushing blow, stripping Rivers not only of her platform, but of the team that had stood beside her through years of hardship. This public and professional humiliation was devastating, but its repercussions soon turned deeply personal. The pressure of the show's failure, mounting debts, and the sudden loss of their careers weighed heavily on Rivers' marriage. The couple faced a storm of adversity both in public view and in private moments, a harsh contrast to the hopes and dreams they once shared. Without Carson's support, or a network's backing, Rivers found herself isolated in an industry that prizes loyalty and favors conformity. The silence from Carson was deafening. The man who once opened doors was now a closed chapter in her life. His refusal to reach out or express condolences compounded her sense of abandonment, transforming a professional schism into a profound personal wound. This silence was more than coldness. It was a statement. It revealed a side of Carson hidden from audiences who had adored the genial host for decades. The grudges he held were fierce enough to overshadow empathy or decency, making Rivers feel exiled from a world she had helped shape. In her own words, it was like being sent into Siberia, alone and forgotten. As Rivers faced the fallout, her career lay in ruins, and her personal world was unraveling. Yet, amidst this darkness, the story continued, one of resilience and the haunting costs of betrayal from the people you once trusted most. In the wake of these events, a heavy silence surrounded both the man who ruled late at night and the woman he had cast out. The bitter aftermath showed how power and pride could destroy the bonds forged through years of collaboration, leaving scars that neither time nor success could easily heal. Tragedy and unforgiven silence. Beyond the broken friendships and shattered careers, the story of Joan Rivers and Johnny Carson takes a tragic, deeply human turn. 3 months after she and her husband were fired from Fox, Edgar Rosenberg took his own life. This unimaginable loss struck Rivers at her most vulnerable, compounding the sense of isolation and despair she already faced. Her world, once filled with laughter and opportunity, had collapsed into silence and sorrow. The entire time Carson spent away from the situation demonstrated his complete refusal to react to what occurred. The man who used to be Rivers' most loyal supporter showed no sign of sympathy through his failure to make a phone call, send condolence notes, or show any sign of compassion. Their professional rivalry developed into a personal relationship that was more painful than any words could express. People who loved Carson died for him to show what he considered essential elements of human existence. The denial of her suffering by others left Rivers feeling as though her life had reached its final conclusion. She described it as being sent into exile, cut off from the community she once ruled and loved. Carson's absence of grace and his failure to recognize her existence created a feeling of isolation for her. The conflict between Hollywood stars developed into an essential human disaster that became the most critical element of the story. The unspoken cruelty that operated throughout his life remained the main element that controlled Rivers' existence. She achieved success through her professional comeback, which established her as an admired public figure. Yet the effects of her hidden past continued to affect her. She moved through life with two burdens, which included the betrayal she experienced, together with the losses she suffered. And she achieved success through her efforts, but she suffered from distress about the lost opportunities that would have come from Carson choosing to forgive instead of becoming angry. Carson withdrew deeper into his personal life after he completed his work on The Tonight Show, which ended in 1992. He maintained silence about the relationship breakdown with Rivers because he preferred to remain silent instead of agreeing to make peace. The man who used to embrace Rivers now shut the door, which left the matter in a state of incomplete resolution that continued to cause her pain. Years later, Rivers visited the cemetery where Carson's ashes were kept. She faced the emptiness that remained after their friendship ended, and their opportunity for peace disappeared. She spoke to the empty space because she wanted to achieve closure, which would never be granted to her. Their story reached its most vital point when they tried to find holy power in a moment when nothing good existed. The Carson-Rivers relationship ended between them because of their conflict, which continued to disturb their connection after death. Their friendship, which had split apart, became the uninvited visitor during Carson's silent goodbye, which created an everlasting reminder. Ultimately, it is this silence, both profound and painful, that lingers, shaping how their legacies are remembered and reminding us all of the high cost of unforgiven betrayals. The final haunting and legacy. The public did not receive any invitation to Johnny Carson's funeral, which was not organized as a public event. The public funeral service for Carson did not take place because he preferred to maintain his private life following his retirement from The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson in 1992. The years that followed brought Joan Rivers unexpected fame, which connected her most closely to the last period of his life. The way he left the space created his absence, which served as the main connection point. Rivers became the only person who could tell the story after Carson and Rivers had their intense dispute, which he never made public. She shared her account of their former friendship that had existed during their time on late-night television through her performances, interviews, and television appearances. The way Rivers reacted to Carson's death revealed their complicated relationship, which developed through their time together. Rivers showed two opposing emotions by calling him offensive names, while she recognized him as her most outstanding colleague. Her emotional state showed two separate feelings, because she felt lasting sorrow and eternal respect for the man who helped her become a successful professional. The injury continued to affect her because reconciliation did not happen after almost 20 years. Rivers never regretted leaving the show for a Fox program, but she often imagined a different ending, one where Carson might have welcomed her back with a simple greeting rather than permanent silence. Rivers went to the cemetery where Carson's ashes were buried during a powerful scene from her reality show. She spoke to the empty area in front of her while she faced her unfinished business because she wanted to reach the closure that had never been obtained. Carson received the farewell he desired because he departed without any public demonstration of his exit. Rivers shared the story of his legacy because she used her voice to preserve their broken friendship, which remained after the filming ended. While Johnny Carson's farewell was marked by silence, the story of Joan Rivers reminds us that some ghosts never truly leave. Their fractured friendship reveals how complex loyalty and betrayal can shape lives behind the scenes. If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating stories behind the spotlight.